I said, yes, the Trevor question. What is poetry? And I wish Kit Fan could have come to that workshop, because he would have told him, because that's a question that's relevant to Kit Fan's poetry. You know, it shapeshifts. It's a book in which poetry is so many things. It pushes at the edge of language. It waves, in a way, from the centre of language. And then it uses language to kind of heroically, I think, describe and analyse things that seem to be beyond language. And I wish I could have shown this book to Trevor, and then he would have known that actually when you read Kit Fan's book, it's like when you went from dial-up to broadband, and suddenly everything became clear in a really, really fascinating and interesting way. Kit Fan.
Thank you, Ian, for making me feel so good. I like being broadband. And hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Do you believe that Hokusai, the Japanese painter and printmaker, had over 30 pseudonyms, and he moved house over 93 times during his life? I think this story is too good to be false. He was struck by lightning at the age of 50, but somehow he survived it, and since then, his art really flourished. Whatever it was, in those towering storm clouds we can now call cumulonimbus, I want that. Cumulonimbus. Halfway through my life, the reeds by Margaru River, where the ducks made love, stop whistling. I fear I've over-inked, or the linseed oil soured the sky. The wind tastes of oysters grilled over autumn soil. A fish draws a ripple, or did the raindrop win? My papers will topple the house before the tin roof falls. I better make haste and find a new address. A long-legged fly by the watercress skates upstream, brazen-faced. What I need now to change the half course of my life is to be struck by lightning and survive it like Hokusai. Docetaxel, one of the most powerful chemotherapy drugs on this planet, is made from the needles of yew trees. You walk into the dark heart of the yew to stop the cells from dividing like the dew. The yew walks intravenously into you, tightening the microtubules like a screw, and all your internal scaffolding, once alive and a screw, turns rigid, indivisible. It's the body's haiku to rot and blossom, overthrowing us in a cool that ends in soil or fire. You walk into the yew for a second chance, for an alternative avenue. And the yew walks soundlessly into you as your hair thins out, muscles soften to tofu, and your lips turn metallic blue. Soon we'll walk together to Peru or Timbuktu, but first you must walk alone in the mind of the yew. The next poem was written in 2020 after the widespread protests in Hong Kong, where I was born, and after the Chinese government introduced the national security law, which continues to minimize the civil liberty of citizens in my home city. This poem is called Mother's Ink. Mother's ink. Somewhere in the prehistory of ink is reproduction. Katrina O'Reilly. Born, I was and wasn't. She drew breath from the breath she'd lost to phantom explosions inside her. 3 days, 3 nights, all breaths and no food or sleep. What other mothers had done, she did, restaging the contractions inside her until my departure. I saw what she saw, a cloud of messy flesh waiting at the gate, redder than ink. The hard plastic on the suction cap, my misshapen head. What she remembered, I remembered. A cloudless day at 3 p.m., and no ink was spilled as she kept herself to herself. Now and then, words escaped from her bleached hands. She knew I wanted ink greedily. She fed it to me, dark milk diluted with water that, when it touched a page, spread. She knew it came from the clouds hiding the tear gas and bullets. She only wanted good ink for me, but feared what it meant. I wanted just ink for her. I wanted ink more than her. The artist and gay activist Derek Jarman lived very near a nuclear power station, and I'm going to finish my reading with this poem, which is really about his garden. Derek Jarman's garden. You dwelled in impossibility. First, the waves spoke Singhalese, but the shingle didn't sing in a single tongue. It clicked like dice rolling in cupped hands. It hummed like the uranium in Dungeness. Then the moon fought for every speck, every freckle, dimple, pimple, every facial expression of the shingle lost to the sun's daily repossession. But the moon was the most loved anthology of repeatable failures. The simple equation was not time times labor equals growth. Take the troubled dog rose pressed against the flint, betting its spiky luck on a bank that catches a leeward damp. Take the almond white slow flowers devoured in a good year by brown-tailed moths. For some, home is less bothersome when they cease to root in one place. Say the dandelions you were frightened of as a child, or the sea kale with its psychedelic blue, violet, orange, green, red, indigo, yellow. It even has white flowers, spreading promiscuously, delicious, though radioactive. As to form, structure, and instruments, here the old handle of your rake, and there the wires you sculpted. They, too, are infectious, like the music of rust. That prompt metallic tick-tock ruling over us busy old fools, as our bodies yellow slowly but surely, like mold, lichen, pollen, in this unlikely land where knowledge is not concentrated in a single tree, but disseminated to every neighborly shape and shade. Your black-washed, cladded fisherman's hut of superior doors and numerous windows. Your bright ochre window frames filter the heat of sunflowers. Night wind off the sea. Thank you.